Hello, and welcome to this professional development training. My name is Stephanie. I'm your host and founder at the Intentional IEP, and it is my hope with these trainings that I can help you feel like a more intentional, effective, and efficient IEP rater so you can do more of what you love, and that's teach. This training is all about how to write standards aligned IEP goals. We are not going to dive into how to write IEP goals. We're going to talk specifically about how to make your IEP goals that you're writing for your students align to state standards. Before we dive into all the goodness, don't forget to check out the links below this training. I'm going to be mentioning a lot of different things. So if I mention anything, all of the links are going to be below this training. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get started. Now, depending upon where you work, depending upon state, district, school, different schools and districts and like all the things, they all want us to write IEP goals differently. And even sometimes year to year, your school might come back and be like, oh, we're going to change how we're doing IEP goals this year. That's happened to me actually many times. I've taught in many different states and I have taught in many different schools just because of moving around a lot. And so I've seen a lot of things when it comes to writing IEP goals. And the most recent thing that I have noticed is this, I don't want to call it a trend because I actually really like this. Writing standards aligned IEP goals. Now, what I don't like about writing standards aligned IEP goals is a lot of people, administrators included, feel like that means writing the IEP goal verbatim to what the state standard is. Now, IEP goals are written for students who are generally, most often, multiple grade levels below their peers. And so we're writing an IEP to give them access and equity towards the general education curriculum. They may or may not be able to meet the standard that their peers are meeting this very day or this year. So we should not be writing standards from whichever standards you use, Common Core, your state standards, TEKS, whatever it is, verbatim into as the IEP goal. It is a huge no-no. It is not best practice. So let's dive in to what you should be doing instead. Again, we're not going to be talking about specifically how to write IEP goals today. I'll leave some trainings that we have at the Intentional IEP and some blog posts about how to specifically do that and write IEP goals. We're going to be talking specifically about how to align the IEP goals that you're going to write to state levels, grade level standards. So what do you need before you can even get started? You need the student's baseline data, and you're also going to need access to your state's standards. You can also access the IEP matrix, which I'm going to link below here, but all you really need is baseline data, and you need the state standards for whichever state that you work in for your school. All right, now that you have both of those things, we have our baseline data. So we're going to take that. That is our starting point. This is where our students currently are. When you have your baseline data, you want to make sure you have baseline data with and without supports. So how is a student performing this skill currently without any supports on their own? Even if it's 0%, that is still data. We need that data. And then you're going to do the same exact skill with supports as well and make sure you're writing down what those supports you provided and then take that baseline data as well. Both of those are great data points to have. So the baseline data with and without supports. You have the starting point. We have where the grade level peers are, right? In your general education curriculum. This is why general education teachers are grade level content experts because they know the grade level standards, right? So you may want to work on IEP goals with them to make them standards aligned because they're going to have this information that you're going to be looking up and they may be able to answer questions for you, especially when it comes to prerequisite skills, but hang in tight. So from where the student currently is to where the grade level content standard is, so where the peers are performing, there is a gap. We have a gap. This is for any student that receives special education services. Depending upon where they are, depends on how big or small that gap is, but there's still a gap, right? And so we have to write an IEP goal for somewhere within that gap, right? Because we need to teach them skills to get closer to that grade level standard. They may not achieve the grade level standard, but they're going to get closer to it, right? So we're writing IEP goals for skills. Standards are skills. We are not writing IEP goals for standards. We are writing IEP goals for skills. We are aligning the skills to the standard. Okay. We're going to do that through the use of prerequisite skills. How do you find out what the prerequisite skills are and what are prerequisite skills? For example, let's say a third grade level standard is multiplication. And so you have a student who is in third grade. Peers are working on grade level standard of multiplication. Let's just even call it single digit multiplication. You have a student, Stephanie, who is currently performing and working on single digit addition. And so there are a lot of skills between single digit addition and multiplication that Stephanie has to learn and has to master before she can even do single digit addition, right? And so those are your prerequisite skills. All of those math skills in between there, she has to know if she's doing single digit addition, she already knows one-to-one correspondence. So we need to know grouping and adding with and without regrouping, two-digit, three-digit numbers with and without regrouping. We need to know that groups of numbers make pairs. We have groups of numbers in multiples that's similar to multiplication, right? Because that's how we're going to relate it. And so you have to look at either using the IEP matrix, which again, linked below. I'll leave a training on how that works with choosing IEP goals below here, but we're going to talk about the state standards here in this training. You're going to look at your state standards. And so how do you find the prerequisite skills? Well, if it's a third grade level standard, you're going to go back to second grade. Or in third grade, if there are standards that come before learning multiplication, what are those? And then we're going to look at second grade. What are they learning in second grade? Compared to Stephanie's baseline, what are the second grade skills? Can Stephanie achieve those? Is that an attainable IEP goal for this year? If not, we're going to look backwards again and go to first grade skills. What is attainable for Stephanie in alignment with multiplication in the first grade standards? Again, you have making groups, you have with repeated addition, you have single digit, multi-digit addition with and without regrouping and subtraction, right? So there's other skills that Stephanie needs to know within those foundational skills to be able to multiply. And so that's how we're going to find our prerequisite skills. Okay. So you do have to know the grade level standards. Again, this is why collaborating with your general education peer is so beneficial because they need to know this for their students as well, not only for differentiation, but also just small groups. They're going to have students in their classrooms who don't have IEPs who are also needing to work on those prerequisite skills. So aligning IEP goals that you want to write to state grade level standards, working with your gen ed teacher, your peer is going to be the most beneficial for both of you in this. And that is how you're going to align grade level standards to your child's IEP goal, your student's IEP goal. And you do this through prerequisite skills. Okay. So again, baseline data, state standard, somewhere in the middle. And so maybe Stephanie is working on, like I said, she's working on single digit addition. I think that we can get to three-digit addition with regrouping this year based on the data, baseline data from the last IEP, how much progress she's making in math goals just over an annual year. That's also how I determine the criteria of an IEP goal. Side note, though, IEP goal training is below this here. And so that's my annual IEP goal. My objectives are benchmarks. They're two very different things. I'll leave a blog post about that. But my objectives are then going to be different prerequisite skills that are going to help her get there. So my objectives are my stepping stones, my stairwell to getting to the top, which is the annual IEP goal. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope the explanation made sense. It does take a lot when it comes to determining what the prerequisite skill is, but once you know where a student is and you have that baseline data and you know what the grade level peers are working towards, you can then just work backwards and looking at those previous grade level standards to see what does a student need to master to get them as close as possible to this third grade level standard. Again, please do not write standards verbatim as the IEP goal. This is not best practice. This makes no sense whatsoever, and this is not individualized for students. We're aligning the skill to the grade level standard skill through prerequisites. If you have any other questions or would like more information on writing standards aligned IEP goals and having standards aligned IEPs, you can reach out to the Intentional IEP at any time at support@theintentionaliep.com. Don't forget, at the Intentional IEP, we also have our membership that gives you access to our IEP goal bank with almost 10,000 pre-written IEP goals. Again, search for your skill and pull it and then individualize from there. Our pre-K through 6 academic skills are for our IEP Goal Bank are going to come with our IEP screeners. That means that they have an IEP data baseline probe that you can use for baseline data and or progress monitoring data throughout the school year. You also have access to more trainings just like this inside of our members only video vault. And then we have a member resource library where it houses over 80 different printables that you can use for data collection, IEP implementation, getting ready for IEP meetings, holding IEP meetings, and everything in between when it comes to IEPs. The intentional IEP is here for you. So thank you so much for learning more with me in this training. Again, any questions, please reach out. I'm always happy to help, but I will see you in the next training.